Hi guys, I'm Max Weinbach with XDATV, and today I'm going to review for you guys the Nubia Red Magic 3. Let's get started. So as I had said in the intro, this is going to be my Nubia Red Magic 3 review. And before I actually get into everything about this phone, I want to say one thing. This phone, I don't feel is a gaming phone. It's more of a gaming device that happens to be a phone as well. I'm going to say that because the camera, which is incredibly important in most modern phones, is not great. The camera's not that great. So it has the Sony IMX586, which is that 48 megapixel sensor that's been in a bunch of flagships, like the OnePlus 7 Pro. It is not that great. Their tuning is pretty bad, to be honest. I wouldn't say it's amazing. It's just pretty bad. Another thing is the camera has like 8K recording, which is really cool, but it only goes at 15 frames per second, which isn't really usable in any modern video. It looks really stuttery and not that great. It's great for outdoor use, but not really for anything else. Then, if you go 4K 60 FPS with HDR10 enabled, let me show you guys what that video looks like. Now, I'm going to show you on the device itself instead of putting it into the full review, because I'm not sure how my video editor is going to handle the HDR image and if it's just the phone or not. But when we go over to HDR, you can see here, that thumbnail is fine. Right there, that's fine. But let's play the video.
This is a 4K 60 FPS HDR10 beta video out of the...
It just looks horrible. And that green isn't my camera. It is really that just eye-popping neon green. It is not that great. And then normal photos, I'll put one up right now, it just lacks any good detail, and the HDR is fine, but not that great as well. I wouldn't consider this a really great camera phone. And including the front-facing camera, here's a picture right now of a selfie I took. It has no detail in my face. It looks like there's a beauty filter, but I turned it off. It is not great at all. If you're going to get this phone, it's going to be specifically for gaming, which is actually what I'm going to focus on. So before we get into the gaming part, let me just go like an overview of the software. So here, the system UI, it's very AOSP-esque. I can grab my Google Pixel right here. This is Google's version of Android. Yeah, it's very similar, almost the same. I wouldn't, if someone told me that, just showed me screenshots, I wouldn't be able to know if this was like an essential phone or something else. It looks like AOSP. Now when we go into settings here, you can still see that. We can go into settings over here. We actually have two extra settings enabled. Multicolor LED strip, which is to change this LED strip in the back, which I don't know if it's buggy or not, but I have not been able to get any of these modes to work except the one where you charge it. So if I plug in the device, it glows on the back. That's about all I've been able to get to enable. Otherwise, it should have a bunch of different effects, some for incoming calls and notifications. I have not been able to get that to work. And then you have the game docking station. This is supposed to be, you connect your phone to it and you can stream games to it from a computer. I don't have the docking station, so I can't really tell you guys about that. And the one last thing is this game mode. So you have a little switch right up there. When you enable it, it enables Game Booster and the full game launcher. Let me just unlock that. So now we have access to all the games and Geekbench that are installed. The option to enable and disable the cooling fans, and then the Aurora band, which is on the back. And then you also have some settings for 4D shock, which is supposed to vibrate like how a PS4 controller does, but I haven't actually been able to feel that work at all. And block notifications in the Super Snap, which is supposed to be like a high quality screenshot, which again, I noticed no difference in it. I don't really know. And then, besides that, that's really all the software mods they've used. They're using, like, legitimately straight ASOP apps. Messages is the same. Cameras, theirs. Let's see what else. Contacts is AOSP. And that's about it. Like, most of it's just stock Android. They did not spend a lot of time customizing this device. But, yeah, that's all the software mods you have there. Now let's get into the gaming experience. So this device has a Snapdragon 855, highest end chip you can get right now. Best chip on the market for Android. It's got a 90Hz refresh rate AMOLED display. It's a pretty nice display. It's a 1080p resolution. It's got 6 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. Not UFS 3 like the OnePlus 7 Pro, even though it does have the same type of display, 90Hz, even though this is higher resolution. And then it's got one camera on the back, one camera on the front, headphone jack, actually. It's got a headphone jack right up here, which is definitely nice in 2019, where very few flagships have them. And that's really all the features I can say as for that. But now getting into the actual gaming part of the hardware, we got a fan exhaust port, another fan exhaust port, triggers, capacitive triggers, so you can play games and use this as the top like you would on a controller. And then the switch I showed you guys earlier, and the docking port. The docking port's useful if you have the dock. The fans are useful, but only work in games. So if you're doing normal stuff and your phone overheats, you're out of luck. It only works in games. And then fingerprint scanner on the back. And these weird red aesthetics with red and black, which apparently gamers like, but I'm a gamer. I've got a nice gaming PC. I've got a nice setup. I don't know what the appeal of red and black is, but all the companies seem to be going for it. So, it's red and black. There's also a red version of the phone and a camo version of the phone. Still red and black. But when we get into the actual gaming experience, like I've said a couple times now, it's good. It's a Snapdragon 855. It's good. You're getting really good performance. The GPU is amazing. I have absolutely no issues with this performance. It performs about as well as any other 855 device. This OnePlus 7 Pro here performs just as well as that. It performs just as well as the S10 Plus. In games like PUBG, at the settings I have, which I believe is medium settings, let's just load this up here. I'll show you guys my settings. I ran this through Game Bench just to get a good setting, good benchmark of the FPS, constant FPS. I got an average of 40 FPS. That's good. It does have a 90Hz display, but it has no support for 90Hz in games. I'm not sure if Nubia needs to work with game developers to add that support, but it doesn't have that support, which kind of sucks, but that is just part of this phone. Let's open later. So these are my, right here, these are my graphics settings. I have it at ultra frame rate, so it should support 60 FPS. I have the style as soft, and then the graphics set to HD. I don't have HDR or Ultra HD. I only have HD, which is 1080p usually. Then I have Ultra and Soft. Anti-aliasing is disabled, shadows enabled, brightness up at 101%, rounded corners enabled, and then auto adjust graphics is enabled. All of this stuff is enabled, and I'm getting 40 FPS. That's pretty good. It is a 90Hz refresh rate display, as I mentioned before, so I would like to see 60 or even 90 FPS out of it, but I do have my settings turned up a bit. I wouldn't expect it to be that high. In Asphalt 9, I got a nice constant 30 FPS. I don't think this supports 90 FPS, so 30 is the most I'm going to get, which is good. Which brings me to the point of these 90Hz displays. I don't think they're useful for anything but scrolling and animations. Games where high refresh rates are really nice. I've got a 240Hz monitor up here for my gaming. It's not, these games can't use it. Even Fortnite, where it supports 60 FPS on specific devices like the S10 Plus, the Note 9, the S10s, the Mi 9. This doesn't support 60 FPS, even though the processor can handle it. But they don't work with the game developers, which is where Nubia falls short with their gaming phone promise. They wanted to make the gaming phone and the hardware is there, but the software isn't. And I'm not talking their software, I'm talking their software support with other game developers. They need to really work on that before I can call this a gaming phone. Otherwise, it's just kind of like a gaming device, but at that point, why get this phone over a OnePlus 7 Pro, which is a nicer build, nicer cameras, nicer display. It is more expensive, but it is nicer. So at the beginning of my review, I did mention that I consider this a gaming device instead of a gaming phone. Like kind of a gaming device that has a phone built in. The reason I say that is this device does not have NFC. The cameras are not good. The speakers are fine. I will say the speakers are pretty good. The display, it's good. It's a good 1080p 90Hz display. The modem, I did notice pretty bad service on it. I had better service on legitimately any other phone I had than this, and it wasn't that great. And I personally couldn't use this for more than a day as my daily driver because it was missing that NFC. NFC is needed in phones. I didn't buy this phone, this is a review unit, but if I were to buy it, I'd be willing to spend an extra $5, $10 to get NFC because Android Pay and Android Beam and all of those things that use NFC are more useful. The Mi 9, very similar price. I would rather get that over this phone just because of that NFC. And the cameras and everything else. I don't know where in the market this phone goes. Is it a gaming phone? Yes it is. But you can also get a last-gen Razer phone that is arguably better for the same price. I'm just not sure where this phone goes into that market. If you are looking for like a second good gaming device, let's say you have a OnePlus 7 Pro and want a second gaming device. You have a Pixel 3 and want a second gaming device. This is a great phone for that. If you're using this phone dedicated for gaming, I would highly recommend it. But to use it as a main phone, for me at least, it's very difficult. If you don't need NFC, if you don't care about your camera, if you don't care about a lot of things, go ahead and get it. But if you need those, I would say there are better options on the market. As for battery life, because I have not mentioned that yet, battery life is insanely good. It is a 5,000 milliamp hour battery, and it lasted me. Running all of the benchmarks on this, all of my performance, all my use, I did that all in one charge. And then I left it for maybe 6 days on one charge, all standby, and the battery is at like 40% after 6 days of standby. It is insanely good battery life. Yeah, but that's about it. Those are my thoughts, and that's kind of my review of the Red Magic 3. Do I think this is the best phone out there for gaming? No. Do I think this is a really good secondary gaming device? Yes, 100% as a secondary device. But I don't think I could recommend this to anyone as a main device, as a main phone, even if you do want it for that gaming.